Most women do not wake up one morning and suddenly realize that their marriage is affecting their health. The process is usually much slower than that. It unfolds over years rather than days. The changes are subtle at first, easy to dismiss, easy to rationalize, and easy to blame on something else. A woman feels more tired than usual. She becomes more irritable. She notices that she is worrying more often. Her sleep becomes less restful. She finds herself emotionally exhausted after conversations that never seem to go anywhere. Because these changes occur gradually, she rarely recognizes them as warning signs. Instead, she assumes she simply needs a vacation. Then she assumes she needs better boundaries. Then she assumes she needs more self-care. Then she assumes she needs to lower her expectations. Years later, she looks back and realizes that she has been surviving rather than living. One of the most difficult realities for women suffering from Cassandra syndrome is that the impact of chronic emotional loneliness is cumulative. A single disappointing conversation rarely changes a person's life. A single moment of feeling misunderstood is not devastating. A single evening of emotional disconnection is something most couples can navigate without lasting consequences. The problem is repetition. When disappointment becomes a pattern, when loneliness becomes chronic, and when emotional needs remain unmet year after year, the effects begin accumulating in ways that are often invisible until significant damage has already occurred. Consider the effect of water dripping onto a stone. A single drop seems insignificant. 1,000 drops seem insignificant. Yet given enough time, even stone begins to change. The same principle applies to emotional health. Experiences that seem minor in isolation can become profoundly influential when repeated over decades. Lisa often described herself as a strong person. She had navigated difficult circumstances throughout her life. She had raised children, built a career, supported aging parents, and overcome numerous challenges. Strength was part of her identity. Yet after 20 years in a chronically disconnected marriage, she found herself struggling with anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere. She worried constantly. She second-guessed herself. She felt emotionally overwhelmed by situations she once would have handled easily. At first, she assumed the problem was aging or stress. It never occurred to her that years of emotional deprivation might have contributed to the changes she was experiencing. Many women reach similar conclusions. Because Cassandra syndrome often lacks dramatic events, its impact can be difficult to recognize. There may be no obvious crisis that explains the emotional decline. Instead, there is simply a gradual erosion of well-being. Confidence decreases, energy decreases, joy decreases, hope decreases. Meanwhile, anxiety, exhaustion, resentment, and sadness quietly increase. The nervous system does not distinguish between physical and emotional threats as neatly as many people assume. Human beings are biologically wired for connection. When important relationships consistently fail to provide emotional safety, understanding, or responsiveness, the body often reacts as though something is fundamentally wrong. Many women find themselves living in a state of chronic vigilance. They become hyper-aware of their spouse's moods, reactions, and behaviors. They monitor conversations carefully, trying to avoid misunderstandings. They rehearse difficult discussions in their minds before initiating them. They spend enormous amounts of emotional energy predicting outcomes, managing conflicts, and protecting themselves from disappointment. This constant vigilance comes at a cost. The human body was never designed to remain in a prolonged state of emotional alertness. Over time, chronic stress begins affecting virtually every system in the body. Sleep becomes disrupted. Concentration becomes more difficult. Physical tension increases. Emotional resilience decreases. Even activities that once felt enjoyable may begin feeling burdensome. Many women report feeling tired in ways that sleep cannot fix. This type of exhaustion is not simply physical. It is emotional, mental, and relational. It stems from carrying invisible burdens for extended periods without adequate support or relief. It develops when a person spends years adapting, accommodating, and coping without receiving the emotional nourishment necessary for recovery. The tragedy is that many women blame themselves for this exhaustion. They tell themselves they need to be more grateful. They assume they are becoming weak. They wonder why they cannot handle life as effectively as they once did. Rarely do they consider the possibility that they have been carrying far more than any one person should have to carry alone. One of the most common consequences of prolonged emotional loneliness is anxiety. Anxiety often develops because uncertainty becomes a permanent feature of daily life. The woman never knows whether an important conversation will lead to understanding or frustration. She never knows whether her emotional needs will be met or dismissed. She never knows whether expressing vulnerability will bring connection or disappointment. Over time, her nervous system learns to anticipate emotional pain. The anticipation itself becomes stressful. Eventually, anxiety may persist even when no immediate problem exists. The body has become accustomed to preparing for disappointment. Depression is another common outcome. Depression in these situations is not always characterized by overwhelming sadness. More often, it appears as numbness, disengagement, or the gradual loss of hope. A woman who once approached life with enthusiasm may begin moving through her days on autopilot. Activities she once enjoyed no longer bring satisfaction. Goals that once felt exciting begin feeling pointless. The future appears smaller than it once did. Many women mistakenly interpret this emotional decline as evidence that something is wrong with them. In reality, it may be evidence that they have been living without adequate emotional nourishment for far too long. There is a profound difference between being depressed because of a biochemical imbalance and feeling depressed because essential emotional needs have remained unmet for years. While both experiences deserve attention and care, understanding the source of the pain matters. A woman cannot fully address her suffering if she continually ignores the environment contributing to it. Perhaps one of the greatest losses associated with staying too long is the gradual erosion of identity. This process rarely happens intentionally. It unfolds through countless small adaptations. A woman stops bringing up concerns because previous conversations were unproductive. She stops sharing dreams because they are rarely understood. She stops expressing disappointment because she is tired of explaining it. She stops asking for emotional support because she has learned not to expect it. Over time, she becomes less visible within her own relationship. The adaptation feels practical in the moment. It reduces conflict. It minimizes disappointment. It conserves energy. Yet every adaptation comes with a hidden cost. Each time she silences a need, dismisses a feeling, or minimizes a longing, she moves slightly farther away from herself. Years later, many women discover that they no longer know who they are outside the role of caretaker, peacekeeper, problem solver, or relationship manager. This realization can be deeply unsettling. The marriage has not only affected how they feel, it has affected how they see themselves. The impact often extends beyond the marriage itself. Friendships may suffer because the woman lacks energy to invest in them. Career aspirations may be postponed because survival consumes most of her emotional resources. Hobbies and interests may disappear because there is little capacity left for joy or exploration. Life gradually narrows. The narrowing happens so slowly that it often goes unnoticed. Then one day, a woman looks around and realizes that the life she is living is much smaller than the life she once imagined. This recognition can produce intense grief. She grieves not only the marriage she hoped for, but also the person she used to be. She misses her confidence. She misses her optimism. She misses her curiosity. She misses her sense of possibility. The grief is complicated because she may still love her spouse. She may still recognize many positive qualities in the relationship. She may still feel compassion for the challenges her partner faces. Yet none of those realities erase the impact the marriage has had on her well-being. This is an important truth that many women struggle to accept. A relationship can contain love and still be harmful. A spouse can have good intentions and still create pain. Compassion for another person does not require abandoning compassion for yourself. The purpose of acknowledging these costs is not to encourage divorce. The purpose is to encourage honesty. Many women have spent years focusing on the cost of leaving. They think about financial consequences. They think about the impact on children. They think about loneliness. They think about starting over. They think about uncertainty. What they rarely consider with equal seriousness is the cost of staying. Every decision has consequences. Leaving has costs. Staying has costs. Wise decisions require evaluating both. Unfortunately, women suffering from Cassandra syndrome often become so accustomed to enduring pain that they stop measuring its impact. They adapt to circumstances that would have once seemed unacceptable. They normalize exhaustion. They normalize loneliness. They normalize emotional deprivation. The danger of normalization is that it hides reality. Just because something has become familiar does not mean it is healthy. Just because something has become routine does not mean it is harmless. Just because you have survived something does not mean it has not wounded you. At some point, every woman must ask herself an uncomfortable question. If nothing changes, what will this relationship cost me over the next 5 years? What will it cost me emotionally? What will it cost me physically? What will it cost me psychologically? What will it cost me spiritually? What will it cost me relationally? What will it cost me to continue becoming smaller in order to remain comfortable within the relationship? These questions are not designed to create fear. They are designed to create awareness. Awareness is essential because people rarely make healthy decisions when they underestimate the true cost of their circumstances. A woman who understands only the cost of leaving is not seeing the full picture. A woman who understands only the cost of staying is not seeing the full picture either. Clarity emerges when both realities are considered honestly. For many women, this represents the beginning of that honesty. It is the moment they stop measuring only what they might lose by leaving and start measuring what they may continue losing by staying exactly where they are. That realization is often painful. It is also necessary. Because before a woman can determine what comes next, she must first understand what her current path is truly costing her. Only then can she evaluate her future with open eyes rather than wishful thinking. And only then can she begin making decisions based not on fear, guilt, or obligation, but on truth.
Hey guys, this is Mark. Some of you may not know that I have a lot of books on Amazon. So if you like my videos, you'll like my books. I have several for ASD spouses, for NT spouses, and for the neurodiverse couple. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this link. Feel free to click on that link and see what's available. I'm sure you'll find something that applies to you. So if you're struggling in your neurodiverse marriage, help is available, one click away.